to What's Cooking New Ulm. I'm Rebecca Fliszar, the dietitian with the Heart's Beat Back Heart of New Ulm project, working to reduce and eventually eliminate heart attacks in the 56073 zip code. Well, now that it's Lent, many people are looking for those vegetarian meals, and Karen, you brought us in a great one. Why don't you tell us what you'll be making and a little bit about your recipe?
We'll be making stuffed cabbage, bean stuffed cabbage rolls today, and just some fresh cabbage, fresh sage, just a lot of good ingredients.
Great. Now this recipe will have a nice protein base to it, so as we look at vegetarian meals, this is one thing that we're looking for. What we're using today are some cannellini beans. They are a white bean, very high in protein, high in fiber, actually high in vitamin B in your B complex, so a great addition to this meal. So now there's a few tricky parts to this, and we're going to let Karen walk us through it. So let's go ahead and get started and see what we're going to do.
First we're going to take the core out of the cabbage. Sometimes that's a little tougher than you think.
Right. This is a little bit tough. So I went ahead and made this recipe, and I did struggle with this a little bit. So Karen's here to show me what I was doing wrong. Our goal here is to get these leaves off. We're going to use each of these cabbage leaves as our roll. So we want to make sure we're paying attention and getting this done right.
And you don't really want to cut it in half because you lose the size of your leaves that way.
Okay. Now we're using the green cabbage. Remember, red cabbage would work just as well. It does have a little bit of a deeper nutrient profile to it, so if you like red cabbage, this could be easily substituted in. You know, this is a very expensive vegetable that's in the market right now, so definitely a recipe you want to keep in line.
I'm just not going to get there.
All right, so we're going to cut it.
Go to the big one.
Yeah, cut it deep and pull it out is our goal here, right?
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Try to, you know, cut at an angle somewhat. Should.
There it goes.
And pull it out. And then you can just kind of push on the sides to help loosen it before you put it in a kettle of hot water.
Okay.
Preferably slightly boiling.
Okay.
Make sure. So we'll just set that in there. I prefer to do it with the core side down. All right. Because then it seems to go up into the cabbage a little bit and make that easier to pull apart.
Okay, so now what is that water doing there, Karen? What's our goal with that?
Basically, it's making the leaves a little bit limp, so that when we make our filling, they're easier to roll.
Okay. All right, so that is an important step. If you're not getting it into the hot water, those leaves are going to still be crispy, and you're going to notice that they're going to break. So we want to make sure we do let them sit for about 10 minutes in that boiling water. So while that's boiling, we're going to go ahead and make the filling for these cabbage rolls. So what is that all going to entail for us?
Well, we're going to be cooking some onions and sage and cumin and garlic together. And we'll be cooking that just for a couple of minutes. Just enough to get a little bit tender.
All right, all right.
So I'll just start chopping up some stuff here.
Okay. Now we are using a yellow onion. As you'll recall, it is one of our stronger onions, so do choose to taste with that. Our garlic, again, is always one of our great heart-healthy foods. Incorporate that into any dish that you can. Again, you can use that to taste as much as you'd like.
And you can use the jar or you can use the fresh bulb.
Fresh bulb, right.
They're both really good. There's not a preference.
I tend to go with the jar. It's a little easier. Save me that one more step in cooking. Kind of a convenience person. We're also going to be using some shredded carrots. You know, you can really throw in quite a bit of other ingredients, vegetables, anything that's fresh right now. So that's great. So now, Karen, where did you come up with this recipe?
Actually, just looking through some food magazines.
Thought it sounded good. Made a few modifications to make sure it was heart healthy, and this really is. It's a great heart healthy recipe. You'll notice that we'll be using a low-fat margarine. We actually are looking for those margarines that contain plant sterols or stanols. These are great additives into our food. They are naturally occurring in fruits and vegetables, but we're looking to add those into different foods. What happens is they actually compete in the bloodstream for space with your cholesterol. And we're finding that plant sterols and stanols are important factors in reducing our cholesterol levels. So if you're on the fence of medication, this might be a good investment for you. Find those butters, those oils and spreads that have the plant sterols and stanols. You'll definitely notice a benefit.
And you want about 1/4 of a cup, give or take a little bit. I mean,
okay.
it is kind of a taste thing, and
right.
I tend to use a little bit more.
Yeah, you're doing that quite quick. Now, Karen, tell us a little bit about your food service experience.
Well, I've been in food service for about 25 years.
Okay.
And I went to school in St. Paul to become a chef.
Oh, great.
My side of things is in quantity cooking, mostly. And my husband also is a cook.
Great.
And his is mostly like restaurant type.
Okay.
Chefing.
And right now you're one of our great food service people here in New Orleans, making sure our kids are eating well, right?
Yes, I'm
at
head cook at
Washington School.
Washington.
Great.
So about 1/4 cup will do just fine. And then when you're doing your sage, either fresh, you know, it comes in a small container. You don't need a lot. 3 leaves are just fine.
Okay.
That'll be about 3 teaspoons.
All right. So if we wanted to make this conversion to dry, you can use dry herbs as well?
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And you go a little bit less with the dry.
Okay.
It tends to be more
a little
flavored.
concentrated.
Yeah, a little concentrated.
Okay.
I like fresh. I think the flavored is just there to. It's a nice flavor when it's fresh. And it doesn't have to be real small, just, you know.
Definitely does have a strong smell to it.
Yes, it
so
does.
You know that this is going to make an impact and change the flavor there in your recipe. So again, things like sage, garlic, onion, all of these are to taste. If you have not used sage in your recipes before, make sure you give it a little try.
Use small amounts.
Use very small amounts. It is very strong. I can tell you right now, I can smell that pretty strong, so that's great.
All right, and then this is a kind of a new recipe for me yet too. I don't have it all in my head like most of my recipes.
That's all right. That's all right. We're trying new things.
Yep, trying new things. So we're going to use a little bit of margarine here in our saucepan. Don't want too much, just enough to
get it
going. Yep.
All right.
Yep. There. And
you know, our carrots and peppers, other things will add great color to this dish as well. If you'll notice, there's very low in carbohydrate with the exception of some carbohydrate in our beans. And so if you are following a diabetic diet or if you're watching your carbohydrate intake, this will fit on there quite well.
And you want a couple teaspoons of cumin. This is
1 teaspoon.
1 teaspoon. So.
And again, cumin is going to also fall in that category of try it first. Make sure you know what it is that you're getting into. It is a stronger flavor. It's going to add a little bit of kick to your dish, so use it sparingly if you haven't used it before.
Right. And cumin is one of those that you would also use in a chili.
Right.
Or any type of chili-based food.
Give it a little bit of extra punch to it.
Nope, I got the right one on.
Yep.
Not used to electric stoves.
Yeah, we always find that our electric's a little bit slower than most people's gas.
Yep. So.
Well, while we wait for this to all heat up, let's go ahead and check in with Holly and see what's new for Fit in 5.
Welcome to Fit in 5. If you have an office job or you sit a lot during the day, it's a really good idea to make sure that you get up and take a break every now and again, and to make sure to stretch well. When we sit a lot during the day, we can actually create some muscle imbalances. And I'm going to show you some exercises that you can do today to help stretch out some of those areas that don't maybe get worked or stretched as well when we're sitting. One thing I notice when we all sit at a desk, and myself included, is that the posture tends to be not the best. So if I turn to the side and I'm going to work over a desk, most of us are going to sit with a little bit of a hunch. We're going to sit leaned over the desk, elbows in, and really not with the best posture. So what we want to do is make sure that when we're at our desk, we're sitting up nice and tall with both feet flat on the floor if possible. When we sit up like this, we're actually engaging those core muscles. So we've got the abdominals and the back muscles that help keep us upright to adjust our posture. We want to make sure that we're really aware of sitting up nice and tall. If you've been working at your desk for quite a while or sitting for quite a while, try doing just a few stretches. Maybe just raising the arms up overhead and stretching a little bit from one side to the other. And just relaxing those arms. If we stare at the computer a lot, then we want to make sure that we're maybe doing some neck exercises, so we're dropping the head from one side and then the other. And we might want to close our eyes for a couple seconds, especially, like I said, if we've been staring at the computer screen for a while. Again, we want to make sure that our posture is really good and we're nice and tall. If we have been sitting for a while, it's also a good idea to actually get out of the chair. You know, a lot of us will tend to want to work through our breaks, but studies have actually shown that workers are more efficient in a shorter amount of time if you do take your allotted breaks during the day, or get up for 5 minutes here and there just to refresh and renew your mind. So you can get up out of your chair, go for a walk, or maybe you want to stretch, opening up through the chest again to help offset that less than great posture from sitting at a desk. You can relax. We also, when we sit, we tend to shorten up the hip flexor muscles, which are these muscles that allow us to sit. It's going to be a really good idea. You can take a leg back into kind of a lunge just to stretch out that hip flexor. I'm going to bring my knee forward a little bit here. Just to let it stretch. And then do the other leg as well. We can bring it together. You might even want to stretch the front of the thighs or the quadriceps a little bit and maybe practice some really good balance. You can use your office chair if you want, but you could stand, find an ankle, stand knee to knee. You can even practice letting go of the chair for some good balance. Do that for about 30 seconds on each side is usually a good idea. And then again, just doing some nice shoulder rolls, just loosening up a little bit. And like I said, moving around, refreshing and renewing your mind, getting that body stretched out and ready to go for the rest of the day. For Fit in 5, I'm Holly, and have a great day.
Thanks, Holly. Make sure everybody follows along, stays active, and takes Holly's great tips. Okay, Karen, let's see where we're at, what you've done, and what do we have to do yet?
We are now got the onions going.
Okay.
I'm going to put in the sage, and that'll get even a little bit stronger smell. You'll smell that, and some of the cumin, and we'll get another couple teaspoons of garlic.
Yeah, this is a full flavor recipe.
Oh yeah, yeah. Surprisingly, my boys do like this also.
Oh,
so
good.
It's
good for young kids.
It's fairly
too.
kid-friendly.
All right, good.
As long as you can get them to at least taste things.
Yep.
We found that it works quite well.
Yep, it is part of changing your norm. So whatever you're used to eating, maybe add a few foods to your repertoire, expand those foods you're willing to try. You're going to find out that there's a lot of foods out there that we haven't tried, which you might really, really like. All of our recipes on the cooking show are made fairly easy within our time frame and something that you can make at home as well. So give them a try. Don't be afraid to try a few new ingredients.
Oh, never be afraid to just, like I did, pick out a recipe, and if it sounds good, try it.
Now, Karen, I'd like us to spend a little bit of time on this cabbage and showing how these leaves actually come apart. I think it's a really great lesson for us to see how you were able to get this to work.
I don't know, it's been sitting in there, for
about 5 to 7 minutes?
7 minutes. And then you just kind of take them. I already turned the cabbage over, so you're just kind of pulling them off. You can either use your fingers or this handy little tongs here.
So just by heating it up, it loosened those right off. We took that core out, and now they're separated, ready to go. These really look great, and they're going to make perfect little cabbage rolls.
Yeah. Maybe get one more.
And the benefit of this recipe too is now Karen will be using the inside of the cabbage actually to shred and use in the recipe as well. So very little waste in this.
That's true. There we go.
All right, Karen and I are just going to work on about 4 or 5 of these. You can actually yield up to 12 cabbage rolls with this recipe and just peel them right off of that cabbage head. So very efficient and really is going to feed a lot of people.
I'm going to get this just so the onions are starting to get really nice and tender.
Okay.
So I'm going to back that off a little bit.
All right, Karen, now that we have our cabbage set to go, let's go ahead and shred that up and add it into our dish.
Let's see, we don't need a whole lot because we're only doing a few right now, but you just want to take off a section of that. And it is still a little bit crisp.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can tell in the inside that it's not heated all the way through, so.
And we'll be browning that with our onions?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And just kind of, as if you were cutting it for like a coleslaw.
Okay. So Karen, if you wanted to cheat, could you buy a coleslaw mix and, and throw it in there? Okay.
You could get the one with the carrots already in it and all that.
So if you're willing to pay the extra to save the time, that is a great tip. We do have our coleslaw mixes that will already have this carrot blend in it. Karen is going to add those carrots right into this mix as well, brown those up in with our onions. It's going to be much more cost effective to do it the way Karen has done it. You're going to see she's gotten great yield out of this one head of cabbage. You know, this cabbage probably costs less than $2 for the head, so good output for what we're putting in today.
There we go.
Now, Karen, could we switch the beans on this as well, or are there other beans that could go with this?
Yep, I have done it with black beans. I think that's a real good, has a real nice flavor to it.
Okay.
And those are even more kid friendly.
Okay.
My kids like black beans.
Sure.
And they'll eat them. I think the next time I make it, I'm going to try a refried bean.
Okay.
Low fat.
Sure.
Refried, because it would just be easier to roll it up.
Yeah. Yep, that's
stuffing,
right.
So.
Yes, cannellini beans have a little bit of a nutty flavor to them. They're actually Italian, often used in a lot of different Italian dishes. So it does have a little different flavor to it. So if you haven't tried them before, definitely something you want to incorporate into this recipe as well.
I would think you could probably use, like a kidney bean or a navy bean. I think just about any bean would work.
Anything on sale, right?
Yep.
Throw it in there.
You got it.
Great.
Bargain shop.
Okay. And we did cheat. We bought the matchbook carrots already, so those are already shredded for us.
And as you can tell, I'm not a real big fan of measuring cups.
Yeah.
That's just how I cook. But if you'd like to follow recipes, follow the recipe by the book.
And as we always say, the more vegetables, the better. So if you're thinking you're going to add more than what the recipe calls for, by all means, throw those in there and add a little filler in there.
Yeah. I mean, you could add just about anything with this. I mean, carrots, celery, any combination of vegetables would be really good.
Now, Karen, when I think of cabbage rolls, I tend to think of an Asian food. Does this kind of fall into that, or is this something that you found in other areas as well?
I don't know if it's so much an Asian.
Okay.
I think you might have some of the similar flavoring, but this in itself would not be considered really an Asian dish. I mean, if you wanted to do that, you could add just a little low sodium soy sauce and fresh. For me, I like the fresh ginger or ground ginger, but just a little bit of ginger in there. And
yes, this could also be made with bok choy, another form of cabbage, and that would kind of help add to that Asian flair of it as well.
Yep. Okay. And bok choy is real nice and green too.
Yeah, nice color to it,
very good.
So we're going to add those beans into the dish.
Beans in here.
Warm those up.
Yeah.
And now, Karen, with this, we also have a sauce that goes on the top. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what is that flavor for?
Just to kind of keep them from getting dried out. In the oven. And just the moistness and it keeps tenderizing the cabbage leaf.
To take that.
So.
All right. Good. Good.
But And it does not take very long to put this together, so that's a nice thing too. It's a nice, easy meal, and doesn't take a lot of time.
Yeah, I think the tips on the cabbage have been the most helpful to me today. It's something I learned new as well. It's always hard to get those leaves off to make them look just right for the rolling, so that's great. So we'll make space for doing that next.
All right. Yep. Let's see here.
Now, as I mentioned, this will make up 10 to 12 actual cabbage rolls. We're only going to do a few of them today for you, but do spread this meal out. This is going to be a very economical meal, and it's exactly what a good family needs to be, nice and filling and vegetarian, especially on those Fridays of Lent.
That's right.
All right.
All right.
So we're going to set these out, and you can see that they make a nice little cup, and that's going to work just perfect for these.
You bet.
And what are we doing from here? We're going to pull off our stir-fry mix.
I'm going to pull that off, and I just set it there. All right. And basically you just want to get enough filling in there. And this again is up to you on how, thick or fat you want to say you want them, how big or how large you want them stuffed. So I would say that would probably be enough. And then just folding over the sides and then kind of tucking it all in.
Now if you do it right, like Karen did, these are going to come out just perfect like this. If you have a lot of tears or your leaves didn't get pulled off correctly, you're going to notice you're going to have a little tougher, a little bit of leaking on the side. So you do want to take that extra time to make sure you boil those leaves off and make sure it sets up well. That's great. There's one. Karen, let's go ahead and put some of these together.
All right.
The nice green color on here is nice too.
Yeah.
And so now, how long will we bake these?
These bake for about 30 to 35 minutes.
Okay. Just enough to soften them up and warm it all up, huh?
Yep. And they're great to take to work. You can reheat them in a microwave. Doesn't really change the texture any.
Okay.
They stay very nice.
Right. And these do work well for your lunch bag as well because they're not meat containing, so you have less concerns with foodborne illness and other contamination. So it is a nice spoiling. Yeah, this is a nice meal.
There's two.
Those look great. Now what we did is we went ahead and prepared some of these ahead of time, and we did throw those in the oven for the 35 minutes. And that way Karen can go ahead and show us how to prepare the sauce that will go on top of these.
All right.
We're also going to be adding a little bit of low-fat Swiss cheese to these to add a little bit of the extra flavor, and again another source of protein. If you have any issues with cholesterol level, remember we try to keep our cholesterol intake to less than 250 milligrams per day. Cheese is a high source of cholesterol, so do be aware of the amount of cholesterol in any cheese product that you do consume.
We'll just finish that one up.
These are nice spring food too. It looks like we're ready to get out on a picnic with these.
Oh yeah, that would be a great, if you're taking a hike somewhere, just roll them up and.
Yep. Now, Karen, have you and your family made some good heart healthy changes over the past couple years with Heart of New Ulm as well?
We have really tried.
Good.
Yep, we've been picking up on our exercising. We try to take a walk every night with the dogs after supper.
Good.
After we do dishes and stuff, so we can get out and not worry about. So.
Good. It does help too that the sun is shining a little bit longer at night when we get home, and it's up a little bit earlier in the morning. So that's great.
And of course, right now, just even getting out in the yard and
cleaning up
and raking and
good
there.
All right. So, well, we have some in the oven ready to go. There's a pot holder there for you.
Put that back there. That off. All right.
So you can see that we already have put together about 7 from the previous batch that will be ready to go, and we still had some leftover filling to spare. So we do feel like this can meet the needs of an entire family on this one recipe and be quite filling.
Or even if you're having guests
or guests, perfect.
It's a good recipe for that. Okay, and what we'll do with the, let's see. good.
Add a little flavor to this,
Right.
we are going to be using a chicken broth. Now, if you'd like to maintain this as a completely vegetarian meal, you can use a vegetable broth as well. So the
Yes.
recipe does call for chicken broth, but do feel free to substitute in a vegetable broth if you would like to keep this completely vegetarian.
This is probably the only time that I use measuring cups. I can't eyeball this stuff quite yet.
Yeah.
So about a half a cup.
Okay.
And then we also want about a half, what is it? Let me see here. Yep, half a cup of skim milk.
Always looking for those pink tops on our milk. That is our skim milk.
Yeah.
Skim milk actually is higher in calcium than some of our other milks.
That's true.
And they are fat-free. So even if you are on a low-fat, low-cholesterol diet, skim milk fits in there fine. We do need that extra calcium, the vitamin D. All of those things are important in our diet. So make sure you get your 2 to 3 glasses of milk per day. If you don't tolerate milk, remember yogurt is a fine substitution. And just like milk, those need to be low-fat or fat-free.
All right. Now, normally I would make a sauce in a saucepan.
Mm-hmm.
This can be done in the microwave
Okay.
if
Okay.
need be.
All right, so we have our milk and our chicken broth heated up from the microwave. Now what are we going to do to finish this out?
We're just going to slowly put the cornstarch in. Just kind of get it in there and then get it mixed around real good.
All right. And that's going to make a somewhat thick sauce.
Somewhat, and you know, you put it over the cabbage rolls and you can just pop it back in the oven for a couple minutes if you'd like.
Okay.
And that'll
Set up.
pretty good
All right.
that way. And it looks like it's all right. And then you just want to pour that over the top.
Okay. And that almost acts as somewhat of a breading, huh? It's a thickening
Little
on
bit.
top and
Yep.
okay.
Yep. And actually, this is something too that you could actually do it prior to putting it in the oven,
Okay.
and then while it bakes, it'll just thicken itself up.
Sure.
So
Great.
it's kind of your choice.
Yeah. Kind of a nice, flexible
Yep.
recipe.
And then just a little bit of Swiss, about six tablespoons. And I tend to go a little bit on the lighter side
All
of
right.
that. Just enough to kind of make it look nice. There.
They look great.
And then, like I said, you could, pop that back in the oven, or if you like to eat it like that,
It's ready to go.
it's ready to go.
Well, this was a really great and interesting recipe. We learned a lot of new things from you today, Karen, especially pulling apart those cabbage leaves. I am excited to give this a try
Yep.
and incorporate it into my typical schedule of meals. So I
Thanks
really,
for having me.
yeah,
It was a
thanks
lot
for
of
being
fun.
here and keep those kids eating healthy over
Oh,
there
yeah.
at Washington School.
We'll try.
All right, that's it for this week's episode of What's Cooking, New Ulm. We'll see you next week.